the fighter of the weekend was Moses Itauma. And this is a weekend where Josh Taylor, the undisputed champ, lost, former undisputed champ lost, and Angelo Leo defended his world title in Japan successfully, but Itauma got all the headlines. I'm impressed. I'm aboard the hype train. I said on Sean's show, the other Sean, the more important Sean, that he that the hype is deserved. Now the time is to find out moving forward if the hype is real. But the hype is deserved. Hype is one thing. Hype isn't it's not, it doesn't mean it's the full shebang, but he deserves, based on the eye test, to have everybody buzzing about him as the next best, young heavyweight. I think that's fair. But what do you think, Raheem? To be fair, he coming up from Britain. It's not like he won the gold medal like Joshua or Lennox Lewis, two previous British, lineal heavyweight champs. But what do you think of him?
I could easily be coined the hype hater. And it's not because, to your definition, the hype is not deserved. In fact, what is hype really? It means you're excited about something and
Hmm.
you're continuing to excite others about what has excited you. There is certainly a case to be made that Moses Itamu is a fucking exciting fighter, and he's got exciting knockouts. He's on big cards, and every time you see him, he delivers. All of that is true. It's just I've seen that so many times, and we don't think about all of the hype jobs that haven't delivered, which is part of the fun of the sport. Hey, listen, I'm not saying don't get excited about a guy, and I'm certainly not saying this is not a guy to get excited about. All I'm saying is I don't get excited at this level for anybody. Maybe I've grown callous and a bit jaded in my days. However, unless you have done something that you're not supposed to do, then meeting expectation does not excite me. It just keeps me paying attention to the course that you're on until you're tested. What Tamu has done is exactly what he's been asked to do. He's beaten everybody in front of him and done it in exciting fashion. It's not his fault that he hasn't been able to progress faster because a man can only move so quickly and wisely. Frank Warren is probably the best matchmaker in boxing right now. He is excellent at guiding heavyweights. He knows what he's doing. And so we're moving Moses along, and I think getting him more headlines and more discussions like these, maybe than he's earned, but we're always on the lookout for the next big thing. We're always on the lookout for the guy who can dominate and might change everybody's pound for pound list and upset the apple cart. I don't know if he's that guy. There's other elements that make a successful fighter sustainable as a marketable fighter, and they may not do exactly with what his abilities are in the ring. How affable is he? I like the way he is dealing with all of the attention. He is deflecting it. He's not leaning into it. He's not at this point letting it get into his head. But also, if he's going to be the guy, that guy, I think there's going to need to be a bit more personality. Where that personality comes from, how it is shaped, I don't know. That's entirely up to him. But it's not quite there yet, right? Like we need to see something that is interesting, maybe beyond the ring. If he's going to be a superstar, that doesn't have anything to do with what he's able to accomplish against his opponent. But if he's going to be a superstar in heavyweight, they've all got to have a little something. Uh, the conversation about Martin Bakoli, I want to speak on that because that right now to me is what sticks out in my mind as a defining moment. What do you think of the matchup between a Tamu and a Bakoli right now? Because that was what was kind of floated last weekend.
I think he beats Bakoli right now, and I don't think we haven't seen the Martin Bakoli that knocked out Jared Anderson last August in LA, and I don't know if we'll ever see him again because getting a couple of good paychecks seems to have robbed him of his shape he was in, and I don't know if he'll ever get back there again. He's probably seen by far more money in the last half year than he ever did in the first like 30 years of his life. So I think Itama beats him right now. And something else I wanted to jump off of that you said, he needs to have more of a personality. What I like about his personality, the dude doesn't even have a fresh lineup. I don't think he's, and I kind of like that. I kind of like that he's not overly concerned about something like that. I get a lot of fighters in the States who, when they're 8, 9, and 0, haven't even fought on a major card, or if they have, they've been buried on the undercard, and they're already worried about, I gotta have my chain. I gotta have my chain. I gotta have my robe. I gotta have my, like they're worried about these superfluous things. And he doesn't seem to be too worried about that. But all these guys got a little bit of the Mayweather gospel embedded in them. He already was like, well, Bakoli hasn't been, and he's correct. He is correct in his assessment. He says Bakoli hasn't really looked good yet. So he's already talking risk reward, as a prospect at 20. But when you mention the personality, I think as we come to uncover his story coming from Slovakia with the Slovakian mother and the Nigerian father, that he said they experienced discrimination, being a half black kid and having a black father in Slovakia. And that's what made them relocate to Britain and made him find boxing at 9 and 10 years old. I think that kind of stuff will help him connect to the audience a little bit. So again, the thing I love about him is he's not worried about being pretty right now, like a Ryan Garcia. He's not worried about his chain. He wants to be the best heavyweight in the world. But already some of that new school boxing rhetoric, there's little leaks of it cracking through. But I like where the kid's head's at. And I think he beats Bakoli. I think Bakoli just hasn't looked good since he knocked out Jared Anderson. Now that version of Bakoli is a handful for basically anybody in the heavyweight division. But even that version of Bakoli, I think Itama can beat because Itauma isn't yet showing as many flaws. His chin is up a little bit, but not as up as Jared Anderson's was. And then Thomas McKean, he already has one little decent notch on his resume because Thomas McKean went 12 rounds with Flip Hergovich, who beat Big Bang Zhang, beat some other top heavyweights. It was a top 10 heavyweight, and he put him out in one round, their common opponents. So, yeah, I think he beats Bakoli.
He needs to fight Bakoli now on his own volition because it's not a wise move. He should actually progress slower, take his time. All this, it's too late now to be the youngest heavyweight champion ever. He's already passed the Mike Tyson mark anyway. It's a stupid record to chase unless it comes naturally, which it clearly wasn't happening. So, to my point, you got to beat or win a fight you're not supposed to win. Yeah, I don't think he's supposed to beat Bakoli right now, and he's not even supposed to face him right now. Where he is in his career, he shouldn't even be thinking about Bakoli. Sure, Bakoli's had 2 outings that didn't look great. He got knocked out in one. We already know the story about that. But I believe Martin Bakoli can get into Jared Anderson level shape at any moment. That is entirely about his discipline and his focus on his goals and what he needs to do to be the best himself. If you put a guy like Tom in front of him and start saying what you just said is that Moses beats him, that will trigger the kind of motivation that Bakoli needs to get in pre-Jared Anderson shape because he will be insulted by that very prognosis. And it might be what he needs to get back. And if that happens, which was what I predict will happen if the fight gets made, if Moses beats that Martin, then he will have done something he's not supposed to do, and it will no longer be hype. He will then be on a global level. He'll be a world-class boxer. It's not on my pound for pound yet, even if he did beat Bakoli, but he will now be a world-class boxer. And he won't be able, the problem is he won't be able to go backwards. If you go in there and take a Bakoli fight and you beat him, you can't then go back down the building with these no-name guys and just, working your way into the upper class of the division. You're there now, and you got to stay at that level, and you got to start fighting those guys and beating those guys if you're going to continue your career. And if you go back down, then you're in like Jared Anderson land, even though you won the fight. You can't do that. So, yes, if you want to say that he deserves the hype, then this is the way you prove that to me.
What's interesting is he's already being talked about as a matchup for Usyk. I would
That's
have to double check.
insane. It's
It,
insane.
I hear you,
That's,
but
like, come on.
I think he might already be up there in the rankings for the WBO. I think he may be as high as number 1 right now. I know these.
This is how badly we want to change any. We just want something to talk about. How
Yeah.
badly we want a new guy in the mix. Tyson Fury, whether you love him or hate him, has left a hole. That's for sure. Joshua, being knocked out by Dubois. Dubois now facing Usyk. Joseph Parker somehow in no man's land. There's no real like top 4 or 5 guys, what you need in the heavyweight division to make it super exciting, where you can just start, messing around and putting one guy against another guy and playing a bunch of like, Final Four type of gamesmanship with different draws. We don't have that right now. So you want to put another guy in there as a wild card. But this is what hype is all about. We're getting out over our skis, Sean.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I was interviewing Abdullah Mason yesterday, who's number 2 for Keyshawn Davis's title. And
Yeah.
I even brought the question to him, like, this isn't realistic. This isn't really going to happen, but I can't help myself, and the kid said what he was supposed to say. Yes, I'll fight him right now. I'll fight him next, right? And it's like, okay, but it's not,
Right. But don't.
reality. And
You
this,
would,
yeah,
but don't.
right. But I'll tell you what, what's the Monique gif where she's like, I would like to see it, right? When she
I never thought Monique was going to find her way into this podcast, but
course.
kudos, Sean. Nice pull.
Oh, I keep people on their toes with my references. But
Well done.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing it. And well, but here's the thing. Here's the thing.
You know how you see how your voice went up right there because you were telling the truth, but inside you were lying. Like you wouldn't mind
Yeah,
seeing it, but you really don't want it to happen.
I didn't say I wouldn't do, yeah, it's that, yeah, stretching it. Yeah, your voice is stretching the truth, literally. Up
A little bit,
yeah,
a little bit. And listen, that's because you're a good analyst. You want what's best for boxing. And
I
right now,
am,
what's
Jed.
best is for
I don't
this
count the
season.
kid out. He's showing that
Right.
much on the eye test. And Usyk is almost 40 years old. So I do like the fight. I like cue the Monique gif. I'm literally her in that,
Yeah, it's just not his time. I mean, where Joseph Parker,
Yeah.
even
Caveat,
Cabial, they're in line ahead of
for sure.
Moses, and it's just like when you start talking like that, in a way, it just disrespects really what the appropriate pecking order is. Guys who have actually earned to be in line for those shots, and I like the conversation in the sense that it's the kind of thing that will build a fight at to a
That's the real,
climax.
if there's anything these talks accomplish, it's that. It gets
Yeah,
the ball rolling towards something when it does actually make sense.
right. That's
Like,
right.
like Abdullah and Keyshawn and Moses fighting for the heavyweight. But here's the thing too, when because there was this hope, the Tyson, finding can anyone ever beat Tyson's record? Here's what's important to note about that as we mythologize the great Mike Tyson. He did it against Trevor Berbick. He did it against Tony Tucker. Like he found a wrinkle in time where it can be done at 20. He didn't beat a Usyk to do it. He didn't beat a prime Larry Holmes to do it. Like some of these accomplishments, you got to contextualize them and understand it's not apples to apples. Asking Itauma to go beat Usyk at 20 is not the same as asking Tyson to beat Berbick at 20 or Tony Tucker. Tony Tucker, who was good. You remember, Tony Tucker was good. Let me put
Yeah.
some respect on Tony Tucker's name. But last thing, because he promoted Tony Tucker. What would Don King say? I have my own joke, but what would Don King say if he had Itauma?
Oh, that he's going to be king of the world. That everybody in the boxing heavyweight division is afraid of him. I've got to hold him back. He wants everybody. He wants them all tonight, right now. He take 2 at a time.
Moses will part the Red Sea in the heavyweight division. He's come to hand down his commandments to the heavyweight division.
That's it.
For the last
That's
25 years, Ukrainians and British have dominated the heavyweight division. This man is half Slovakian, same thing, and half he's from Britain. He is the amalgamation of 30 years of history, all encapsulated in one man. So,
And then he would sign his opponent to a 3-fight deal just in case he lost.
of course, yeah, yeah. Martin Bakoli would be, yeah, we got him on
Exactly.
layaway just in case shit goes south. But